Hello and welcome to the latest edition of ScreenDaily Talks. I'm Matt Mueller, the editor of Screen International, and today I am joined by the new festival director and the head of industry for International Film Festival Rotterdam, which kicks off the first of two separate events it has planned for 2021 this coming Monday. Vanja Kaludjercic joined as Rotterdam's new director last March, right at the start of pandemic lockdowns, and with the festival's 50th anniversary event to start planning. Vanja was previously director of acquisitions at Mubi and also served as head of Holland Film Meeting. Marit van den Elshout has been heading up IFFR Pro and overseeing all of the festival's industry-related activities for a number of years, including the Cinemark co-production market and the Hubert Bowles Fund. They're going to take us through how the pandemic influenced their decision-making in structuring this year's festival program and industry activities, as well as sharing their own highlights for what's in store for audiences and industry. The format for today's discussion will follow that of the majority of our ScreenDaily Talks, which many of you watching will already be familiar with. But for any newbies in the crowd today, I will moderate a 30 or so minute discussion with Vanja and Marit before we then open up to questions from you, our live audience, for the second half. I know there is a chat room, which is often quite busy during the talks, but please do submit any questions using the Q&A channel, where my colleague Orlando Parfit will be roaming and monitoring to find the best questions to send through. We'll get through as many of those as we possibly can. Right, so on to our talk. And Vanja, I would like to start with you as the new festival director for Rotterdam, joining last March, your arrival coinciding with the start of the pandemic. Can you just begin by telling us a little bit about what your initial vision for Rotterdam was when you joined as the new director, and whether that vision has evolved at all, over the course of the year and as you head into your first edition?
Yeah, for sure it had to change and it had to adapt pretty early on, already in March, but because we did see a number of lockdowns across the world and subsequently here in the Netherlands as well. But there are a couple of things that we started working on immediately, such as refining the program structure. We decided to go with a couple of clear cut sections without any subsections, and there were other steps made there, and that these were to expand the competition. So the Tiger competition and the big screen competition grew up to 16 titles now, with ambition to give more emphasis on the importance of competitions to IFFR. So there were a couple of things that were already sort of shaping up as we were moving towards the understanding as well that we are heading towards a festival that is unlike anything we know. So here is where some adapting had to happen. But interestingly enough, one of the visions was also to think about how R&D, can help us make critical decision-making about our environment, making more sustainable, industry environment, whether it's that for our own festival or for all the disciplines in the film industry that we are catering to. And this immediately sort of came into action. It's an R&D that you have to sort of deploy right away and use it to just make a film festival happen, because this was the key thing and key ambitions that at one point was something to deal with. And another was to sort of see how much more of year-round events as a festival we can have, which now again turned out to coincide with our festival shape to begin with, because as you said, it's in two parts. We are starting in February, but then there are a number of events that we are going to have and programs leading towards the summer celebration in June.
Yeah, and could you talk a little bit about the two separate events? Because I'm sure most people are aware of this, but it'd just be good to sort of spell it out a little bit in terms of how the two different, next week and then the week in June, how they were sort of, envisaged and what they'll contain.
So the one in February that starts as of Monday, or shall I say, which Marit will, I'm sure, speak about, some of our professional activities have started already. Caters to IFFR Pro. This is something that we have decided early on, already in summer, knowing that that global industry would not be able to travel in January and collectively come to Rotterdam. So this was one of the decisions made quite early. So the moment we understood that the shape or the size of the festival as we know it will not be able to happen in one go, and that most likely we'll have to think of a model that can sort of maximize on opportunities, how to serve to the industry, to the filmmakers, but also to our audiences and other stakeholders. We came to a conclusion that it needs to be a slimmed down version, the one happening in February. And we wanted really to use the opportunity when we have the sort of focus of the global industry on IFFR to really push forward our competitions, the films that need this exposure, need these highlights, and also sort of kick off their festival career with IFFR. And as we are leading, you have mentioned already, so this is also the 50th anniversary of IFFR, so many things to celebrate as well in most unusual ways. So good to know is that June was the month in which IFFR's very first edition took place. So this was also something that we wanted to mark. And June we will use for our non-competitive sections. Which is the Bright Future dedicated to first-time filmmakers specifically this year, and the new section that we have introduced recently, earlier in the previous year, and that is Harbor as well, which is the most expansive one as well, because it is our main program as well. And we have also reshaped our section dedicated to restoration, Cinema Regained, and this one as well, given that it's about restorations and a lot of films that deal with film history, we wanted also to give space on big screen with projectors, because there are certain requirements as well that demand for certain films to be screened on a big screen and in the cinema. So Cinema Regained as well will be taking place in June. And our central program will be dedicated to celebration of the 50th edition. So the thematic program as such will be really the centerpiece of June celebration. And there are many things that I can talk about, but there our very sort of off big screen section dedicated to arts and cinema related art, it's called Art Direction. And there, again, we have many commissioned works that are going to be interventions in the public space and performances. And these works, of course, also need less restrictions, so to speak. So these ones will also be taking place in June. So a lot of audience-driven events are meant for our summer celebration.
And how many days will the summer celebration be? Is that going to be a 5-day event? Or
it's from 2nd until the 6th of June.
2nd to the 6th, yeah. And you mentioned Harbor is the new section and probably the biggest section. Is there a particular sort of theme for that? Is that just a nice umbrella sort of, space to house lots of different kinds of films? Or do you have a particular kind of film that you're looking for that section?
It's really the most expansive, as we said, and really stands for sort of a safe haven or inclusive free port for plurality of voices. It will be a section really dedicated to surprises and discoveries and such, and sort of a multitude of cultural voices that we can also see in Rotterdam because of its port and how this movement goes as well. So this is something we wanted to do, also to dedicate it to this city as well. Yeah, and it's multicultural, aspects. Yeah.
Marit, I'm gonna come to you next. How are you doing? I know you're actually already underway with some of the industry events, and I just wonder if you could just tell me a little bit about what's already going on, but also in planning your online event, what that decision meant in terms of how you structured the event and what you plan for this year's IFFR Pro.
Yes. So as Vanja said, we already decided quite early on that we would have an online event for the pro activities. This was really because we didn't want to get into a situation where only professionals from certain countries would be able to travel to Rotterdam and others not, because everything we do should be truly global. And also we decided it early because then we could really focus our time and energy on what that would look like and what the team would need to look like and what we wanted to focus on. And few things always came back, and this was that we really wanted to organize something that still could offer community, a feeling of community and a sense of connection for filmmakers to their potential audience, to other industry members, to their fellow filmmakers, and also interaction with us as a team. It became quite early on clear that we needed to really put ourselves into this as well. So we started with 3 sessions, reality check sessions, R&D sessions already in autumn, where we focused on these 3 topics in a way: film festivals, how they could best serve the industry, how they could best serve the filmmakers, and how they could best serve the audience. And we actually took quite some learnings from that. I think one of the things we learned is that it's not a 10-day festival anymore, but maybe a 2-month festival with all the behind the scenes work that we have done. We have put a lot of time in discussing with all the filmmakers and rights holders what the specific needs for each film are. in terms of publicity, in terms of guidance, sales, distribution. And we've really tried to cater to their needs. And we also organize some more general sessions with pitch trainers, with market consultants. Every year in the Pro Hub, we already work with a dedicated team of mentors. So we have a lot of these people returning, and they have been working in the past 2 weeks already quite a lot with all the selected filmmakers. We also started with the Rotterdam Lab already on Monday. And this has become a 2-week program, which is quite ambitious, but we are dealing with producers from Tokyo to LA. So we had to cover all the different time zones in the world. So we felt that we should have a 2 times 5-day program for them. And this has already been going on for almost a week. And we welcomed 74 producers from literally all over the world. And they've had some great sessions already with Eva Puczynska, with Roshi Behesnejad yesterday, pitching training from Ido Abram. And then they're also, the idea of the Rotterdam Lab is that they really create a community and a network. And this is also what we have learned, I think, from the past online editions that we have visited, that this kind of feeling of community works best when you are catering to a select group of people or a focused group of people. So we set a Slack environment, we set up a Slack environment for them, so they're constantly chatting to each other, like a coffee roulette game and speed dating. So that's already going on for quite a while. That's very nice. Yeah.
Were there other industry events that you thought worked quite well that you looked at when you were creating, this year's IFFR Pro? And I guess the same for you, Vanja. Did you look at what other festivals had done as you were kind of working out how you wanted to put together Rotterdam for this year? Do you want to start, Marit?
Yeah, I think this, as I said, the smaller interactive activities where there was a lot of feeling of community and networking and engaging with each other, that they sort of worked really well. I think Locarno did really well with Open Doors. Vision du Réel had really nice sessions. Tallinn, I think, was also had a great program, but also the creative producer in Daba, the lab that we organized together, well, that actually Realness Institutes organized with Sundance, EAVE, and us as a partner. We had the first session in September, and that was also really great 2 weeks where we had a group of, I think 30 participants from all over Africa and Europe and the US, and they've really engaged with each other. So I think these kind of smaller focused, tailor-made sessions, they worked probably the best. And I think this is also really the silver lining of this year and of how we had to adapt our activities. There's a lot more close communication and focus in a way.
Yeah.
And what about for you, Vanja?
Yeah, pretty much on the programming side was similar. We had to have much more exchange over different plannings and aspects in which IFFR can take place, right? So when online exhibition became one of its central components, of course, that also required a much more in-depth discussion in what does that mean for the film and with the right holders. So it really brought us closer as well, because I don't believe that throughout the year in such way we would be exchanging over what a festival can do for you, how that we can serve that best, and I think that extended from all the industry activities we do all the way to the program in a similar fashion as well. So for the filmmakers in the program is that are going to premiere now, entire competition in big screen and so on. It's similar. Very similarly, we have started discussions with them at the moment they were selected, even previous to announcement. Having this kind of intake interviews to understand. Okay, once you come to the festival, there is the exchange with the industry, interaction with the audience, and so on. But on the other hand, to get there, how are we going to prepare? And all of a sudden, you realize, as Marit said, your festival is much longer behind the scenes that from what we have experienced previously.
Do you think that's a permanent change, whatever happens in the future, in terms of, does this give you new ways to work, to sort of extend what you do across the year? Is this a kind of maybe a valuable way for festivals to be, to be working all year round with filmmakers and supporting kind of the whole ecosystem of the industry? Or is that a bit too?
No, I think it's definitely offering a lot of opportunities, because it's something that we have always been keen to do. For Hubert Bous Fund funded filmmakers, for example, we started the Boost NL project a couple of years ago, and we've always wanted to put more year-round dedication and support to the filmmakers. But because you have this big beast that you have to organize one time a year, that everything that was sort of sometimes eaten up all our focus and energy. And we're not a huge team. I mean, we're essentially quite a small team. So I think now people got used to this also, this way of working. Of course, there's some online fatigue, but I think a lot of people just really want access and connection. So now people got used to it. For the Hubert Bals Fund, it's really opening up also opportunities. We are maybe going to do some tailor-made, smaller events throughout the year with projects that we have funded in the past, or have projects coming back, see how they're doing, connecting them to certain people. I do think we have to keep some sort of momentum of our time in the year. I think if we all start to do everything the year round, then it becomes a bit of a chaos, but yeah.
And what about for you, Vanja? Do you like the idea of having two separate events every year, like doing one in February and then doing another sort of public more outdoorsy one in June, or is this just a one-off for 2021?
Let's see how this year will
see if we survive,
and then what are the key learnings from it, as well. But I'm keen on exploring this, of course. What for audiences as well we can do throughout the year here in Rotterdam. I'm sure there are many more opportunities, and this is something we are gonna probably see and experience as we are sort of starting developing this variety of programs that are even leading up to June. I think it's something we also touched upon in many discussions, but we want to also work, with the local community of cinemas as well as they're reopening, to bring the audiences there as well, because this is also a major campaign to have and to run.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the whole screening side then of this year's festival programming, in terms, obviously, at one point I'm sure you imagined you might be able to have physical screenings during this week or next week, but now obviously probably that's not going to happen, or I'm sure it's not going to happen, because I'm sure you're in a very strict lockdown like we are, and how what that meant in terms of pivoting to obviously the online ticket sales, how that's going to work for your local audiences, etc.
So we were since the campaign since early on was that it is a hybrid festival, and the major access towards the films will be through the online services that we are doing. So the moment when the last heartbreak occurred and the cinemas sort of remained closed even throughout the festival, we were also preparing for it, and we were ready for it. So the major pivot was not so difficult to execute, because it was quite in the air that the cinema part might not work out at all. And also to mention, our government has restricted the access to cinemas to 30 people only, meaning that for us, this in the sense of the ticket sales, that wouldn't create a big difference, right? So very early on, we also started thinking of how to create the sense of festival atmosphere for our audiences as well, and at the same time knew that we cannot keep to the very strict schedule of screenings that people usually would, of course, commit to when they're coming to the festival for a couple of days. So a very important part was that we offer, that we have two offers. That one is a live screening, a timed screening, in which a filmmaker introduces the film, we watch the film, and afterwards there's a live Q&A as well, where you can ask your question. And similarly, before the film begins or the announcement, one can interact through a chat function with the audience members. So it can give a sense of communal experience as well. Whereas for of course our other audience members who wish or can access films at their own convenience, there is a 72-hour window in which one can experience it and watch it. And next to that, we have our programming team has done a wonderful job interviewing these filmmakers for pre-recorded sessions and introductions as well. So it's not going to be a live experience, but you can still get quite a good context around the film as well. And there is still a physical component to the festival, albeit in a very unusual augmented reality way. So in 50 spots around the city, starting from this weekend, we have this huge fluorescent boards. And the project is called Tiger on the Loose. So with your device, you come to this crazy looking board, and as you scan it, the QR code, a scene from a tiger unleashed will pop out. So we have a journey through history of 50 different films featuring tigers. So it's quite amusing.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And how have you found ticket sales for the online sort of version, screenings and stuff. I mean, do you have numbers capped, or I mean, can as many people in the country who want to watch a film sign up to watch it, or what's the sort of scenario there?
Yeah, the films are available throughout the Netherlands, so geo-blocked also to Netherlands only. Of course, they're capped, so it's similar to what we would offer in terms of seats, number of seats, maximum capacity, as if the film would be playing at the festival. So we kept to this formula that we have.
Yeah.
The tickets are started only now, so it's a little bit too early to say, what does that mean comparing to the previous years. But also, it's just the beginning, and it's only 43 feature films compared to, a festival that in usual years would screen 270 features. So it's quite a different setup to begin with. But as I say, it's the first part of the festival only, and it will gradually grow as we are getting to June. Yeah.
And I guess in June, you're hoping that will be just physical. I mean, are you planning an online component there, or is the idea that you'll bring audiences to cinemas?
So big part of the festival should happen on site. So this is something we're counting on. And if governmental regulations allow to welcome also larger audiences, I'm not going to say large, but larger, because also beyond 30, I mean, that would be great. It's a summertime as well, although we are in the Netherlands, so you never know. But we do hope to also have outdoor screenings, open air screenings, and there is a possibility as well, of course, to perhaps welcome larger audiences. And of course, we want to see guests on site as well, especially because the 50th celebration also requires quite a lot of participation from we are tapping into the rich history and legacy of IFFR, and we would like to, of course, welcome some of the guests on site as well. I do think that would be premature to completely exclude online component of it, because we have to also see how the governmental regulations will develop, and how much flexibility that will allow us. But I wouldn't exclude it right away. Yeah.
Okay. And will there be any industry component to the June events, Marit, or is everything you're doing taking place now?
No, I think Rotterdam is historically really about breaking down the boundaries between industry and audiences. So we don't want to separate them as such. So we are planning maybe some of these R&D sessions in June to bring a smaller component of industry over. We will bring industry over connected to the films. And we really hope, but this is really fingers crossed, that we will have our second edition, our second workshop of Creative Producer in Daba physically, because we were supposed to have it physically in Rotterdam this February, and that we will have that physically in June. So then we will, in any case, bring over the participants from the different African, European countries and the US, and of course, experts that we want to interact with or let interact with them. So these are a few things that we're planning for June, definitely. Yeah.
And Vanja, are you able to give us any insight into how your juries are working?
Yes, so I'm a bit jealous, because the jurors are the only ones who actually are going to be seeing films on a big screen, and in 3 different cities as well. So we have organized, of course, with all measurements and precaution in place, private screenings for our jury members. Big screen jury and short film jury will be watching films here in Rotterdam in Kino. I'm showing you the direction of Kino. And in Amsterdam, I will be showing for a couple of 3 jury members, Tiger Competition jury member screening. And in Berlin, we'll have 2 jury members watching the films there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Together. They'll be watching the films together, or in the same room. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. When do they
far away from each other?
From away. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One sits in the first row and one in last. This is the and then alternate. Yeah.
Fantastic. And were there any challenges that you faced in terms of programming this year? I mean, did you have more submissions than normal? And, what was the situation for you and the programmers in terms of pulling the program together?
Yeah, we didn't know what to expect in terms of submissions. So, is this going to be, are we going to have to sort of search for films more than usual? But actually, the submissions were exactly the same as in previous years. So there was no shortage of films, or great films to put up this. We were not struggling to put up the competitions together, not at all. However, of course, the moment the festival has sort of decided that the online will be a component of the festival that we cannot go without, we had some films have decided to opt and wait for a possibility when this festival or any other festival will be able to show it back to the big screen. But it was a minority, I must say. I didn't know what to expect there as well. We have had a lot of conversations with filmmakers and companies. Marit and I did a lot of them together as well. So the sort of the preparation part, was always there. And we were not an isolated case either. There are a lot of festivals who have opted for this. Sundance just will start, in a day. And yes, so there was we were positively surprised how a filmmaking community in general has reacted to it and embraced it and decided to sort of go on this journey together with us.
Yeah. And how can you talk a little bit about selecting Riders of Justice as your opening film? I mean, I haven't seen it, but I was reading Screen's review earlier. I don't think I'm allowed to say anything about it because it's still embargoed, but it just sounded like a title I'm very much looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it's we really were very happy when we came to to this film. It was a very quick and easy decision to decide to offer it the opening slot. Also, Anders Thomas Jensen is a filmmaker who is returning to Rotterdam. His previous film, Men and Chicken, did very well with the audiences, with the critics, and here he's bringing back the ensemble cast, albeit in a very different setup. And he has this rare ability, I think, of integrating in his films topics that are reflecting on our reality, perhaps even too much and very timely, because he speaks about the rise of right-wing nationalism and manages to sort of embed that in a genre together with genre elements and a dark sense of humor that kind of puts you on the spot, but then opens the film up to so many different perspectives. So and it has this crossover potential as well. So for us, it was really a no-brainer, so to speak. And having Mads Mikkelsen starring in it also certainly helps a lot, especially after winning the European Film Academy Award. Yeah,
absolutely. How's the how do you I know you sort of talked earlier about you've been filming filmmaker Q&As to run before the screenings or after the screenings, maybe before the screenings. Is there any other way that you're going to involve filmmakers during the events next week? I mean, are you going to be doing any live Q&As or is it all pre-records?
We're going to do, for almost every film, we'll have a live introduction and a Q&A. So we really wanted to sort of bring this possibility that the audience can interact as well with the filmmakers. Our programmers have pre-recorded also Q&As as well, conversations, and those can be always accessed. But we really didn't want to, lose the possibility of this for filmmakers as well, especially when it's your world premiere, to have the possibility to interact with the audience as well, because those first reactions as well and questions are much appreciated.
Yeah, maybe good to add is that we're adding some of that pre-recorded material to the Films on Festival scope. So I think 62 out of 66 films are available on Festival Scope, and they will have some additional material of the pre-recorded introductions and Q&A for people to watch as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Vanja, I understand you're actually doing quite a few of the Q&As yourself. Is that right? For the Tiger filmmakers?
I will be doing daily conversations with Tiger filmmakers. So we are starting on Monday. Yeah, so in each conversation, it's going to take about an hour. We'll have 4 filmmakers in each of these sessions. So I'm really looking forward to meeting them. Although we met them already, because we started with sessions quite early on, but more internally to create this atmosphere between the filmmakers themselves and also with the programming team and so on. Yeah.
Was it complicated working out which 4 to put together and which 4 to do?
Ultimately, it boiled down to the logistics. Yeah. Ultimately boiled down to the time zones. We first, of course, had this ambition, maybe thematic, this and that, and then when you realize that from between LA and Australia, it was not possible. So we had to do it, very much in line with that.
And you mentioned earlier, obviously, I mean, you are a small team, but I mean, is planning 2 events double the work? I mean, how have you found, like, I mean, presumably you're all, after this event next week, you all then go back to work on the next event. So you're probably not finished with that, and you probably won't be finished with that for a while, correct? It's almost like creating a whole nother festival for like 3 months later.
I think the good thing though is we have a lot less late nights and we drink a lot less than at a usual festival probably. So we're all staying very healthy.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure those of us who've been to Rotterdam, I'm sure will miss that part very much.
No, I'm joking, but I guess the work is just very different. So, but this is something that we will take in consideration, right? Towards June as well, we'll use different teams and people, and some of the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, it's also a learning experience for us to understand that in case you decide, or we decide as a festival to do more year-round events, what does that mean for the team as well? But the workload is, as Marit says, very different. But again, yes, you're right. In terms of programming, as soon as we are done with the February session, we need to sort of conclude the selection for and start announcing titles, of course, for June as well. And big part of selection has already, of course, been done. So already, as we finished with February edition, by the end of the month, in early March, we're going to announce the first sort of bulk of the program as well, and then slowly finishing the thematic ones that are related to more collaborations with external curators as well and guests.
Yeah, and will Harbor contain more commercial titles, perhaps, or titles that came out of Berlin or were or selected for Berlin? I mean, I suppose you don't really know yet, but I mean, have you already made some choices for Harbor or for the June?
We will introduce about 10 to 15 Harbor, present 10 to 15 Harbor titles already in our first announcement. I want to see the program Harbor should be as diverse as possible, that, you know, the films that may be very different from, you know, a documentary film to a genre film to a more perhaps commercial title or popular in a given territory, but not necessarily, you know, so popular with the box office in our own. So these are also this kind of diversity and plurality sort of expressions that are very interesting, you know, coexisting next to each other and creating some sort of a new dialogue. So yes, it may happen that there is a more commercial title as well, appearing in Harbor.
Yeah, and Marit, I mean, did you spot any interesting trends this year in terms of the projects that were submitted for the co-production platform? And was there, I mean, I know obviously, you know, everyone was talking this year about, in some ways, the pandemic was great because we were able to develop our projects so much deeper than we normally would do. But I just wondered, did anything interesting come out of, you know, the kind of projects that were submitted this year?
Well, yeah, I think that part about development is actually sort of right. When we had the autumn round for the Hubert Bals Fund, we received twice as many applications as usual for this specific selection round. So that was already quite interesting to see. I think we did see for Cinemark that we had a similar amount of applications as usual, I think slightly more. And a lot of them were really, really well set up. Like the projects were really well structured and indeed maybe a little bit further developed. We also saw some people bringing back projects that we have seen before in labs or markets already. One of the things that we really discussed with our selection committee is that for this online space, we really had to look at the state of the project and what we could offer the projects as well. In this kind of different setting where there's less chance for chance meetings and everything has to be quite focused and tailor-made, which is in a way really good because we already were used to this tailor-made kind of structure, working with mentors for each project in the weeks prior to the market. So we just continue to do that, which is nice, but at the same time, the chance meeting is also very important. So that was a thing that we really discussed throughout the selection meetings. And I think themes that came up are really identity, belonging, a lot of the themes that we see now currently also that we are dealing with as humankind. Where's home and yeah.
Are producers feeling optimistic, do you think, about being able to shoot this year? I mean, I suppose it depends on what part of the world they are, right? Because you know, obviously Asia is probably a little bit more open than we are in Europe currently.
Yeah, I think they are. I think a lot has happened also on the production side in the past year. I mean, many producers have been resilient and have continued to shoot or have had to delay shoots, but still managed to do something. Of course, it's a bit challenging to now get into co-productions when you don't know what will be possible in the year to come, and especially also in the release of your film later. But I do feel quite a lot of optimism, and especially, of course, in Europe, there's quite a good support system. All the countries have really stood up, and the local national film funds have supported their filmmaking communities. And at the beginning, we were a bit afraid that everything would become really local, but also in the Rotterdam lab, we saw that, so we thought that a lot of partners would put their international programs on hold, but the opposite is actually true. We have 74 producers from 40 countries, 44 partners, 8 new ones. So people are really looking for access and access to information and to continue and to be resourceful. So I think it's going up again. People are optimistic again, or at least that's my feeling when I interact with people. But yeah.
Is that your experience, Vanja? Like speaking to the filmmakers who you programmed in Tiger and the other sections? I mean, is there an optimism, I think, for things this year? And also, I suppose the role that Rotterdam plays in this kind of this space, this, art house avant-garde sort of filmmaker space. I mean, it's such a crucial role. Do you feel very optimistic about the shape of that in the future as well?
Yes, very much. Our first exchange as well with the filmmakers from Big Screen Competition and the Tiger Competition, both features and shorts, first showed a lot of enthusiasm and optimism also for what we are putting in place, creating, in moments when there is a lot of deprivation of, cultural content to begin with, but also opportunity, that we're creating a platform that is sustaining it, that is offering a momentum for these films to gain exposure, but also to create new contacts, to interact with the industry and with the audience. So it was quite rewarding when we organized our first meetups also with the filmmakers as well. So I think I felt a lot of good energy, a lot of good vibes, and quite some optimism. Yes, I really want to see how then in the next week these interactions are going to be put in place, and understanding how better and even more so we can support the filmmakers after the February part.
I think there will be a lot of evaluation also. And I think this is also a time when we will have to start looking at our responsibility as festivals and markets and what our role is in this future change.
Yeah.
Especially for these kind of films. Yeah.
I'm going to take some reader questions now. Let's just have a quick look. I've got one for you, Vanja, from Niels Putman. He asks, as being affiliated with Mubi in the past, is there any experiences, knowledge nurtured there that have proven to be extra welcome now with the festival forced to blend into some sort of VOD platform as well? And do you see any opportunity for festivals and VOD platforms to collaborate in the near future with in this new sort of ecosystem that exists for festivals?
Good question. Well, I certainly didn't expect that leaving a streaming service, I'm going to become a director of first online edition of IFFR. But there is a place for everything, and I guess it's happened. However, it was very, very useful for sure. Understanding this landscape and having sort of profound knowledge on how the online exploitation of the film works was very helpful to me. So I think it was easier for us to gain this. As an organization, IFFR is very flexible, so I wouldn't say it would be difficult anyway, because IFFR was always a place for innovation and experimentation as well. And we shouldn't forget that we have our own platform, Unleashed, that is connecting with the audience as a VOD platform throughout the year as well. So I'm curious to see how the first results from this February edition will look like, and what that means for us as a festival. Do we want, if there is a wider outreach, which is something that we are very curious to see if that's going to happen. How that can complement the festival activity, perhaps either throughout the year or next to the festival. But it's early to say. We would really like to first gain these key insights. However, one thing that we have put in place, for instance, in between February and June edition on our Unleashed platform is to we are going to select, we already did actually, we're going to present 50 films from one selected from each year of IFFR. So this is also one of the nice online activities we are putting in place.
These will run between the February and the June event. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that exactly 50 days or nearly?
Not
Really.
not quite. Okay, another question. Hi, it's your friend Wendy Mitchell. I'm so missing my annual trip to Rotterdam this month, but look forward to joining you online. My question is about the June edition. Do you see that for more your Dutch audiences, or do you hope to also welcome quite a few of the industry that usually would come in January?
Yes, you're welcome to come, Wendy. For sure, you have to be here.
So you're hoping, at the moment, if you can have international guests, you will definitely have that.
Definitely the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just for the local audience, really.
No, we want to really expand it as well. And as I mentioned before, there is the 50th thematic program also involves a lot of external collaborators. Actually, again, 50. We are really after this symbolic number this year. So hopefully, yes, also some of them will be able to join the festival. And as Marit said earlier, there are aspects of our R&D platform as well that we wish to sort of use as well, and welcome some industry delegates in June as well. Yeah.
Well, and possibly going back to this more kind of nostalgic feeling of the festival, where the interaction between audience and filmmakers and industry was even more easy because we were smaller, and drinks outdoors, and we'll have cocktails outdoors instead of
not freeze
inside and not freeze. Yes.
Yeah. Are you able to to tell us anything at the moment about the 50th anniversary plans? I mean, any particular kind of things you want to share at this stage?
It's early to share, but there is one great commission project that we will present in the outdoor space, but that announcement will come a bit later, and more specific details on the program as well. But we have this, the central thematic program is now under the working title called 25 Encounters, in which we are putting in pairs 50 personalities, luminaries of IFFR, Tiger winners, former directors, projectionists from the, who were part of the festival for decades, and also bringing on board some new figures, whether they come from arts, film industry, or somewhere else, to enter into these dialogues as well, under certain themes that we're examining, that we are talking a lot about here now, is what is the position of the festival. So we from more logistical or technical questions to more metaphysical as well. These will result in a series of conversations that are going to either be recorded or written or in form of video letters. And each of these pairs will also have to contribute a selection, a film as well. So it's going to be quite curious.
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah. I see Wendy's excited by the idea of the outdoor cocktails. She has noted. Okay, this is another question from someone who is anonymous. What is the potential of film sales during IFFR, especially taking into the account that many films are not available to watch and there's few direct contact between the film representatives and the market, especially for filmmakers who do not have dedicated sales agents? And a separate question from Marit, what will be the networking opportunities besides the industry program?
So for sales, we have had some of our usual activities already in place in the past week. So we've been communicating to sales agents which films were still available, and also to distributors. We will actually have almost all of the films available on festival scope for accredited guests, so they can have access to the films. Mm-hmm. What we will do in terms of networking, we felt that, we will certainly try to do a few online funnier things for people to network, where we will bring everybody together. This is still in the making, but we, in the panel program the talks program that we're organizing, we have arranged for certain panels to be followed up by round tables where people can sign up to interact with each other and with the panelists, and to really create this kind of networking idea. I do feel that we should not have online drinks every day, because we haven't felt that that really works. People are very busy. There's a few festivals happening concurrently. People have their children at home. They have work to do. So we didn't want to overly ask people to be online with us like 10 hours a day, but we felt that we should do that more catered. So for the filmmakers, we have organized quite a lot of sessions already, as we spoke about. For the Rotterdam lab, we're doing specific things, for Cinemart as well, but it's all quite tailor-made. And for the industry at large, we will do some funnier things.
Are people able to watch sessions afterwards as well, or do they have to just watch it live? So you can access the sessions.
If you have an accreditation, we will leave the sessions on until June. They're all going to be in VOD. Also, the spotlights for Cinemart projects that we will broadcast on Monday and Tuesday, they will also be on VOD later for Cinemart accredited guests to watch. Yeah.
Okay.
And we have also for Cinemart guests a lot of really great video pitches of all the projects online. This was also first for us.
Okay, and those will stay online as well for.
Yeah, we have to discuss with the filmmaking teams how long they would want them to be there, but yes, okay. For a while they will be. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We can send you something from HEMA. I see Wendy and Helen in the chat popping up.
So we have another question about the juries, Vanja. Someone wants to just know a little bit more detail about how the juries are going to watch films, how many per cinema will they be, have to have COVID tests before they go into the cinemas, and what about the staff in those cinemas? So give us all the health protocols, and
we're going to absolutely follow all the protocols that are in place for each of our jury member. I think that testing is possible as well. We have systems in place here for our own festival and our own staff. For Germany, I will have to talk to our head of guest service, because I don't actually know if in Berlin we have the same system in place. But we are talking to our jury members about safety protocols and the staff that is helping to make these screenings constantly. So that is something that we are very committed to. And screenings are in rooms that allow jury members to really sit far away from each other. So we were actually not joking about that. And we will never have more than 5 people actually in a cinema. And that only goes for big screen jury, because for the other ones, it's going to be 2 or 3 max in per screening. We are going to have about 3 to 4 screenings a day. So with the staff, we have already went into very sort of the nuts and bolts of how to best go about it. So this all has been already done.
Will your juries be meeting on a daily basis over Zoom to talk about what they've seen, or are they just going to do one big meeting at the end?
No, we're gonna do more conversations. It's about 16 films in the Tiger competition, so there is more to discuss. So I think it's good to have a couple of moments throughout the process for jury to discuss. So we're gonna meet, of course, all together to welcome the jury when they start with the screenings. But most of the jury, so big screen jury and Tiger shorts, they're together, so they can have an ongoing good discussion all the time. Whereas for the Tiger feature films, one part of the jury is here in Amsterdam and the other in Berlin. So those connections, will be over Zoom yet again. But I think it's nice that even in Berlin, 2 jury members are together.
Yeah, who are your jury members in Berlin? Who are they?
It's Orva Nirabia and Le Mans Hank Jeremiah Mosese. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have a question from Essie Palaz. I'm curious about female filmmakers. In every festival, the number of female filmmakers does seem to increase. Is this your observation from this year's submissions? What do you think?
Yes, when it comes to first-time filmmakers especially, and this resulted as well with in the selection itself. So when we look at the Tiger competition, the feature film competition, and the shorts, it's quite, it's almost equal. As we are progressing more towards more experienced filmmakers, so big screen selection always goes for, it can be a first film, but it can also be a 10th film in one's career. And there already we have seen fewer submissions, or fewer films that would come from a female filmmaker, although we have, it's quite nicely represented as well, and we are happy, but the balance is not as equal, for instance, as in Tiger. So there's more opportunity for third-time filmmaker than maybe for second, third, and fourth, or at least this is something that we can observe from our program. And then when it comes to Limelight, which is a section dedicated to avant-premiere of festival titles that have been shown in the past year, and award-winning films that are going to be released nationally as well, the ratio is not great at all. We have 2 female filmmakers next to 10 or 11 male. Yeah.
But some of those were Cannes 2020 label titles, weren't they? Like
yes, beginning. Yes, for instance,
and you also have some titles that are currently playing in Sundance, right?
We have 2 titles that are going to be in Sundance. Yeah, one is from both female filmmakers. So one is American, Mayday from and this one will be in Tiger competition, and the other one is El Pero Que Non Calla from Anakat, which will be in big screen. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, next question is, does the fact that EFM is happening slightly later, has that generated more industry interests? I guess that's a question for Marit. Marit, do you think you've had more industry engagement for the industry platform this year?
I'm very actually happy with the numbers that we're having so far. I think the last time I checked, we had already more registered guests than last year, and for Cinemart it's also more than last year. So I don't know if that has something to do with EFM or just with access from afar, that it's easier to access online. We're actually partnering with EFM again this year. I don't know if you remember our propeller partnership that we had with CPA Shocks. We're going to be partnering in one of their brainstorm sessions later in March. So that's very nice. And of course, one of the Cinemark projects will continue to go to the co-production markets. So there's nice collaboration there. But of course, there's Gothenburg happening also at the same time. Sundance is happening until Wednesday. So I think people are going to go here and there. They're probably going to hop.
Yes.
But we have, I'm really happy with the numbers we're seeing so far. And people can still apply for an accreditation. We're not stopping that. And so, yeah, still possible.
I mean, in a way, these online events, they enable more people from around the world to participate, don't they? I mean, that's one that, you no longer have to travel, and you can just click on Zoom and you're there.
Yeah.
So there are some advantages to being in a pandemic, not many. I think this is a question I probably touched on a little bit earlier, but just someone else has asked, do you think the pandemic has impacted the volume of films, but also the subject matter? And I guess that's a question that both of you could answer. I mean, do you think is the pandemic having a noticeable impact on the kind of themes of films, or that you were seeing, or projects, or?
I think that goes more for the development stage, because most of the films that we have in our program have had, perhaps if they encountered problems, it was for completion rather than for the shooting part. But I do think that this is something that we'll be able to judge on rather in the development stage, or the films we are going to be receiving for the upcoming edition in 2022.
In Cinemark, we haven't really seen it yet. I mean, those projects have already been further in development as well. So the subjects already were started with long ago. I mean, I think the themes that I mentioned of belonging and identity and where's your home, I think that we see that coming back in a lot of the projects. I think that has been something that we have seen in recent years. I think in the Hubert Bos one, we had one project that involved and Trump and Corona, so that was very interesting to read. But but no, we haven't really received yet any like real COVID stories, or let's see for the March round what we will be receiving. But
yeah. This next question I was going to ask myself, but it's I guess a question for Vanja. I mean, how are you going to define success for this particular edition of the festival, and what are your metrics for success? Are you able to sort of share what you'll be looking at when you come through the other side?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because all of a sudden you're again measuring that in a very different way, because what we are offering is also very different, and it will be very different both for our audiences as well as for our filmmakers. So what I would think to a certain degree would define success is that it is a different experience for them, but that it's not less or lesser of an experience as well. For filmmakers, that means that this personalized trajectories and that run-up work that we are doing will enable them to really create, to get these experiences of interaction with the audience, meetups with the industry, get the feedback for the film, and get new opportunities for it. And for the audiences here in the Netherlands, and I think that goes for a big part of the world at the moment, we don't have much going on. There is a significant deprivation of possibilities to get anything. There are no new films being really released, but that goes for many aspects in our culture. It's not only cinema and film. So in this pretty dark times, to get the possibility, even if it's from the comfort of home, to enjoy these amazing works on a hopefully bigger screen than just a laptop, but it can be that as well, is also for me quite something, and I see it as a success already to even offer this possibility.
Fantastic. And what about you, Marit? Are you changing how you're viewing success for?
It's an internal discussions that we have, of course. Where are your expectations? I think for us, especially for the projects at Cinemark and also the producers and the industry at large, is that we can create some meaningful connections that can also lead to business opportunities and collaborative opportunities between producers and sales agents and distributors and funds and. But how to measure that? I mean, I think it's always difficult to measure success at a festival. I mean, besides ticket sales and how many people and how many meetings you schedule, we are already scheduling also a similar amount of Cinemark meetings. I think that's kind of success when we have those numbers, but I think really this meaningful connections, if we can cater to that and that business will come out of that, I think that's yeah. And if we make some people happy and offer distraction and yeah. But it's a difficult and really good question that we are often talking about ourselves in the management team. Yeah.
Did you receive additional support from local government to put on 2 events? I mean, was that I guess that was a discussion that had to be had, right? That you have to, if you're putting on 2 separate events, it's probably, probably not double the cost, but it's certainly, it's 2 big events at 2 different times of the year. How did you navigate that?
Well, we did have to work with the existing budget for it. So this is also the result is that we are not going to have as many films as we would have in a usual year, but this is also because the accessibility is different. And then secondly, we had to, of course, it's a different time in a year in which we are also spending money, and our revenues are going to be lower as well. So the part that we had to discuss with the government a lot is that compensation, of course, for lack of income due to the lower ticket sales.
Yeah.
For us, it meant more that because we close our financial year usually in February, that we had to have a lot of talks with the Film Fund and Creative Year, but they've been really flexible in letting us sort of exchange our eligibility period towards June and doing the reporting after that. So that's it's more created more conversation, but
thank you. Somebody has a question about, do you have any data on approximately how many films from the Arab world were submitted for this edition? And do you think it was more or less submissions from the MENA region than in previous editions? Any figures on that?
No, I don't have the figures by heart. It will be something that I can absolutely check later on. But I know that it was not lesser than usual, actually. Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah, because we had and we have great from MENA region. We have 2 titles in Tiger competition that I'm immensely proud of. Also because they are displaying a very different storytelling. That's what we would, especially here in this part of the world, we have this preconceived idea. So how a film, from the Middle East should look like, and it's completely breaking these boundaries and offering us something quite exceptional. So both It Goes for Agatmus and Black Medusa are titles that really impressed us a lot this year. Yeah. So it was a strong presence, but in terms of exact numbers, I wouldn't be able to say right now.
Yeah. Next question is from Helen DeWitt. I'm a big fan of all things Rotterdam, and I'm particularly interested in and enjoy the experimental artist music and film program. Will there be something similar in June?
Yes, we are going to start the festival actually with performance programs that are especially again commissioned for the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And usually all of performance artists are filmmakers and artists that we have featured in our Tiger short film competition or some other programs. I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with. And then from this program, the short film program as well, and the arts directions, we are planning quite a lot of activities that are going to exactly present that it's very close to all of us at IFFR, sort of blending this boundary between cinema and arts and, putting it all in musical events of performances. So quite a lot of it will be happening in June, yes.
Okay, and I think we have time for one more question. And well, it's a big one. Let's go for it. What do you think about film festivals is going to be permanently changed as a result of the COVID pandemic?
They're going to be permanently adapting. I think this is something that festivals do, but this crisis has served as a catalyst for that. So what we were saying before, something that was an R&D process that we're reflecting upon and would be put in place maybe in 3 years' time is now already being put in, it's already out there. So that conversation and decision making has been accelerated for sure. We are here to really cater to the film industry and connect amazing works with the audience and the industry. And I think now that we have no physical access to that, even more so because of this deprivation, we realize how festivals and their position is more vital and necessary than ever. And what Marit was saying before, the value of informal encounter is crucial as well for many further developments in one's career, of a film, of negotiations and whatsoever. So I think this is something that we became even more painfully aware of, and how relevant this is for festivals.
Marit, do you have any thoughts on this before we?
I agree completely. I think we will look at a lot differently at collaboration between festivals and markets also in the future. I'm hoping that there will be more openness also to do so. So that's really something that I hope we've seen this happening in the past year, and I hope that this is something that will stay. I mean, even for us in the Netherlands, we work together with the 4 main festivals to create this online environment that we're working from, and that has been also a very enriching experience. So,
yeah. Well, that is unfortunately all we have time for today. I know everyone on here, including myself, wishes you all the best for a very successful event in next week and as going on now, and also hoping that we can come there in June and have those outdoor cocktails with you. I know me and Wendy will be looking forward to that for sure. So look, thank you very much for taking part. I want to thank everyone who joined us today to listen to these 2 amazing women on our screen. Thank you, Vanja. Thank you, Marit, for giving us the thorough insight into this year's Rotterdam events. And if you're kind of not able, or if you want to watch this tomorrow, it'll be available on ScreenDaily.com, as all our talks are. So if you missed anything or you want to share this talk with your colleagues, please check out the site tomorrow. Vanja and Marit, once again, thank you. Best of luck in the edition. Great pleasure to talk to you. And just it's me now to say farewell and see you next time.
See you soon, Matt. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.